Hey guys, I am so excited to have my guest with me this week because one, it's a person I've never met. Everybody else has been a person that I have met and I'm good friends with. And I think this is a face, if you watch WWE or NXT, that you will recognize right away because she is one of the biggest fans of NXT. And this is going to get away. She's a huge fan of Bayley. Everybody, please welcome Izzy.
Hi, what's up, everybody?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How's school? I know you're doing it virtually this year.
Yes, I am doing it virtually. I love it because I get to work out in the morning, start whenever, pretty much end whenever, and also I just have so much freedom in general. Like I can have lunch whenever. Like I love that freedom.
Definitely. And I mean, you already talked about the working out. Like your Instagram and your Twitter is full of these workout videos. It is amazing. Because when I was 13 years old, I was like popping popcorn and hanging out with my friends. And I watched wrestling, of course, but I wasn't like totally, you are like in depth into the wrestling business. You're doing your own interviews with different people within the business. You're doing podcasts like mine. You're training constantly because you go to a wrestling school, plus you're doing boxing training, kickboxing. I mean, girl, how do you have time to fit all of this in your day?
Cool. It's definitely hard, but I think I really balance it the right way. And also my parents are really helpful. Like I'll work out in the morning because I have my own gym in my garage. So I'll either do yoga or I'll do like a little CrossFit workout. And then I'll usually start my schoolwork. And then, I know you were talking that I go to a pro wrestling school. I've done seminars, and the school I went to was like a place I used to train at. I'm not like enrolled with them anymore, but I go to like their seminars sometimes. So definitely like that's kind of like not, it's I don't want to say it's out of my life, but it's like it doesn't take too much of my like time, if that makes sense. But kickboxing, it's usually once a week for me because it's a little private session, and I really love it. It's so much fun. It's so great to like just punch at mitts and at the punching bag. But like you were saying, like how do I fit time in? I really think of just balance. Really, like that's like finding the balance is extremely important.
Yeah, and I mean, you're still going to shows. I mean, even as of a couple of weeks ago, because this is pre-recorded. So a couple of
Mm-hmm.
weeks ago, you were at one of the NXT tapings. So you're
Yes,
still
I
going to
was.
shows as well.
Yeah, and I had a great time at NXT. It was definitely cool to be back. I did so well yesterday, or no, today. I'm sorry. Today I got tested. I know it's going to be a few weeks after, but today I got tested for COVID because that's what you have to do in order to go to NXT. So, depending on the COVID testing, I might go to NXT again this week. But it was so great to be back because NXT is something I really love. So it was great to see all my friends, see NXT like live and instead on the couch at home.
Right. Now let's go back to the beginning and talk about when did you start going to NXT shows originally? Because I know we're talking
Ooh.
5 years ago was the Sasha Bailey match, but you were going even before that.
Yes, I was. So I started to go to FCW, which for some people who don't know, that is NXT before NXT. And it was so funny because I've seen like people who are like totally big now. Like I saw Charlotte, Roman, Bray, or the Fiend. Who else? Sasha, Paige, like I saw all of them. So it's definitely weird to like see them now, like some of them holding the championship and then knowing that they were like wrestling in a little armory in like Tampa. But when I started to go to NXT, I know it was after, NXT like left the whole FCW name. And I believe my first show was at Full Sail. Um, and it was like the taped one. So I think that was my first NXT show. I'm not like 100% sure, but I think that's the one I remember the most.
And you became this just gigantic fan of Bailey. You were always right there in front of the camera. And then you become this focus point, pretty much an iconic moment in NXT history. You have the Iron Woman match. It's Sasha versus Bailey. Bailey gets thrown up against the LED board lights, and then Sasha comes, steals your headband. You start to cry, and Sasha goes in, puts the headband on, and starts making this face at you, which is, and for those who are not watching on YouTube, you know, the pouty face and using the hands to act like they're crying, basically making fun of you. And I mean, that moment is so ingrained now into NXT fans everywhere because that's like one of the biggest moments. And it had to be a huge moment for you as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, I always think it's like kind of like the kickstart to my career because I feel like everybody's gonna look back at it and they were like, "Oh my God!" Like I remember when Izzy cried because Sasha Banks stole her headband. It's actually funny. Speaking of the headband, I don't know if the people on YouTube can see it, but it's actually right up to there. I retired the bow, so like we have it on display, and we have the Sasha Banks authentic glasses, by the way. And by the way, I'm sorry to all the podcast viewers who cannot see this loveliness, but go to YouTube if you want to see the headband and the glasses. But it was, like I said, it was definitely a cool moment, and it's still great to look back on. I still don't know why I cried. Maybe because I thought Sasha was going to grip my bow, or I remember saying that I was scared that my friendship with Bailey was going to end. So I don't really know. Like, I'm still like, why did I even cry? But you know, it's like I said, it was such an amazing moment that like fans can really look back on and say, wow, that was so cool.
And now, I mean, you're 13 now, so to become really a pro wrestler in most states or anywhere, you have to be 18 years old usually. Now, I know you've had a first match, which we'll definitely get to when we'll talk about. But I mean, when you become a huge star, which I know you're going to be, I mean, you just from seeing your social media posts, I can see that this is something that you feel deeply passionate about. And there's a lot of people that are in the wrestling business right now that don't even have that kind of heart that you do. So if you stick with it, you are going to be this just gigantic star that takes off. And they're going like wherever you go, that is going to be the first moment that they play, no matter what. Like, this is our Izzy back, you know, when she was 8 years old, crying because Sasha Banks took her bow.
Thank you so much for those kind words, and I definitely see that happening. You know, me and my parents would always joke like the whole package video for my WrestleMania moment is gonna make me crying in the front row. You know, my dad holding me, my mom. I remember. Okay, so it's so funny story actually. My mom, she was taking off her earrings because she was about to jump the rail because you know nobody hurts me. You know, Mama Bear is getting angry. So that was definitely like a cool little tidbit. But like I said, it's such like it's a funny for me now. It's kind of a funny moment because like I don't know. It's just like I was like, why did I cry?
Well, like you said, this is also the moment that really started it all for you. I mean, you had been in the ring with Bailey. She would like pick you up when she had the championship and you guys would celebrate in the ring together. But this was really a moment that happened during the match that really, even though maybe it wasn't planned, because I know you plan on telling that on a episode of Table for Three in the future. I saw that on your social media. So I don't know if it was planned or not, and I won't let you ruin that moment for you when you are in a WWE in 5-10 years. So I don't know if that moment was planned, like I said, but I mean, you have this moment that now it was so much storytelling in that second, whether it was planned or not, because Sasha really like she just threw everything out like at that moment because she took your bow and made you a part of it. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
you're definitely that's the moment that's gonna start it all for you. Like of course you had those moments before where you were in the ring with Bailey, you know, celebrating, but this is the moment that we can be like, okay, we are now taking Izzy seriously. She's not just some super fan in the ring or in the audience. She's, you know, she's going places. She's doing things. And when did you, because you said that you started the pro wrestling school, but now you're just kind of doing seminars. When did you actually go into the ring for the first time and learn anything wrestling related?
So I remember my very first actually seminar was with Tessa Blanchard, and today like I still talk to her. I like she's almost like my big sister. I legitimately love her. So like I was super nervous actually to go to it. So like I DM'd her, you know, like a week before, like it was like the week it was announced and everything. I was like, hey, can I go? Like this is like what I do because before like I went to the seminar, I was doing like heel promos at a promotion out of like I think Sanford, Florida. So like I sent her my promos and she was like, "Oh yeah, I would love for you to come." I think it was like $50. So I went and like I was so nervous. Like I stayed in the car for like till like the last second I can even go in. So I was so nervous, but you know what? I had a great time. You know, Tessa was so welcoming and she was just the sweetest person. So that was like my first time, you know, in the ring. And then from there, like I enrolled with the school. And so like I kind of built up from there. And like I sometimes watch some of my old videos and I'm like, oh my God, I was like so out of shape back then. Like I had that baby fat that everybody talks about. But it's definitely cool to see my progress, you know, from then and then now. Like it's awesome to see, you know, like I don't know, just like as a whole, you know, from my hot tag show that's on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, you know, back like last year, it's been, the hot tag is 1 year old. So like last year I was terrible. Now I'm like, I sound so professional, but not like in a robotic way. Like, you know, I have my own style. So that's what I really love about, you know, evolving into my own person.
Yeah, definitely. And I've watched, like I said, a lot of your shows. I watch when you go live sometimes. Whenever I see it, if I can catch it, I will. You're so entertaining. And like I said, this is how you know somebody is going to go far. You have the passion. You're already entertaining. I watched one of the interviews you did with Coach, and he's like, you already know more about the business than some of the people that's already in the business, you know, that are, you know, trying to make a name for themselves.
Coach is, I will say, Coach is amazing. Like I love him. He is somebody I like truly look up to, just like Tessa. You know, he's amazing. Actually, I have to DM him because hopefully this new opportunity for me will already be out. I don't want to spoil it yet, but I think everybody will kind of know what it is once it's out. Hopefully, but everybody stay tuned. But I have to DM him for some advice for this new opportunity.
That's amazing. See, look, you're 13 years old getting these amazing opportunities. Like I said, when I was 13, I was like hanging out at the mall and, you know, doing my homework. You know, it's totally different lives with what I lived and you are living currently right now. I didn't start living my wrestling life until I was in my 20s. So you got, you know, like 10 years upon me, you know, because you started, like I said, at you were what, 11 when you had your first match, right, with Effie and Leva?
Yeah, I was 11. I always think it was like 10 or 11, but I think you're right. It was 11. That was an interesting and amazing moment. It was like a whirlwind of emotions, like
Oh, I can
just
imagine.
combined. Yeah, you know, like if you don't mind, I'll just get right into it.
Yeah,
You
go
know,
for it.
yeah, like I was so nervous. You know, before, like when I was younger, I was so nervous. Like even when I was starting the hot tag and getting interviews with NXT superstars at Full Sail, I was so nervous to approach them. But now I have so much confidence. Like maybe it's because I'm like DMing somebody, it's not face to face. But you know, I feel like I would be able to like go up to somebody. Um, you know, like it's crazy that like I have more confidence now. I think everybody gets like that, you know, as they go through, you know, I don't know, the bars or whatever you want to call it. But that match, like I said, was like all the emotions combined. Like I said, I was super nervous. And first of all, it was extremely hard to even get the match to happen because, you know, people were looking at it as a grown man versus an 11-year-old girl. And like that just did not fit together. That was not the perfect puzzle. So, you know, when it happened, it was really cool. It was an awesome moment, but like the aftermath was definitely bittersweet. Sure, I won a championship, the internet championship. Sure, I had my first match, but you know, I lost a lot of relationships and that definitely stung. You know, I had to leave my pro wrestling school. That extremely sucked because that was like my life. I had a lot of my trainers, they turned their backs on me. And then I had to leave my wrestling promotion, and that definitely sucked. So, you know, it's like I said, it definitely stings sometimes, but a lot of opportunities opened up for me. You know, I was able to go into MMA, BJJ, whatever you want to call it. So that was really cool for me, just personally. And you know, I kind of like found like I started to like appreciate wrestling more, and I got like that you can really trust nobody, and like there's a whole different side to wrestling, like the behind the scenes part.
Yeah, the politics backstage can be a bit of a drag, especially like when you're in it regularly. But I can't believe that that happened to you. Like
Yeah.
you're a young
Like, what did
child
11-year-old
still coming
girl
up in the
do to
business.
everybody?
People are playing, you know, the politics game with you too. It's insane.
Yeah, like I said, it's like, what did this little 11-year-old Izzy do to these lovely people?
What kind of commotion did you start? But I mean, there was
I
a lot
know.
of controversy with that match. Like you said, it was a
Yes.
grown man versus you who was 11 years old, but you also had your tag partner, Leva Bates, which Shout out to Leva because she's one of the best people in this entire world.
She is.
But Effie choke slammed you. And there were people very, very angry about this. Like, I saw you even had Lindsay Dorado, who was like,
no. Oh no, we should not talk about, don't talk about him.
Okay, we won't go there. But there's people who were very upset.
He'll get so mad.
I know Lindsay too. Okay, so, but there were people who
tell him I said hello. Tell Lindsay I said hello.
I will definitely. But there was people who were very upset about it, and they didn't take it very kindly. And then, but like other people on the flip side was like, it's pro wrestling, it's entertainment. You obviously took the move very smoothly. It was the way that Effie handled you in that move was very safe. And like, but there were a lot of people who were upset, and other than just the person that we mentioned. And it's crazy because, like, I mean, I get it. It's a kid, but you're not actually physically being abused. I mean, it is going to put some bumps and bruises on your body, but it's not like you were in an actual fight. You know what I mean? I don't know. To me, it seems.
I
understand both sides, but still,
Yeah, I loved when people were telling me that my bump card was filled. But like, if you watch the video when I got chokeslammed, like Effie's knees hit the mat first, and then my back did. Finally. So that definitely was like, come on, people, like, just look, you gotta, like, don't believe everything you see, like, right away. But it was so funny. Yeah, like, the next day, like, at my school, like, I have to walk up and down stairs. So, like, I was definitely sore, but I was fine. And, like, I remember, like, after the match, like, I was very sore. And I probably, because, like, it was my first match. I've never taken a choke slam. Like, that was my first time. So probably, like, that whole, like, all that stuff. But it was, like I said, it was an amazing match to look back on. I sometimes go back to the video and I see all the comments and people are like, oh, that's so cool. Izzy's going to make a great wrestler one day. And I'm like, oh my God, these people thought I'm going to be good just from this match. And like, I look back at it and I'm like, oh my God, I messed up on that. Like, who thought this match was good?
But no, it was good because, I mean, we're not expecting a lot from an 11-year-old in a match.
Nobody was
a grown man.
Anything.
And you went in, you took some moves, you gave some moves. Everything was really good. Your kicks were there. Everything was there. And then
my kicks.
You were 11. Like, you want to give yourself a break.
No, they were so bad.
But what got me, and like, I was all for it. And obviously, I'm cheering for you and Leva to beat up Effie. But what got me at the end was the little speech that you did. And the last line, like, no matter what, like, wrestling is for everybody. And then you just give Effie like a big hug. And I was just like, I feel this like way down in my heart and my soul. Like, you touched me, you know what I mean? And this is from somebody that's in the business, you know what I mean?
That's so glad to hear because like, that's like, I really wanted that to be the video. That's like, oh my God, this is awesome. And said it was the chokeslam video, but I mean, that's so cool. But I really wanted my message at the end because like I said, like there were so many people against the match in the first place. Like they didn't even set up like the venue yet. And people were like, no. So it was like, I really wanted people to say, oh man. And it was so funny that night after the show. Well, before the show, this lady was like, oh, I can't believe I'm going to the show. I am not excited for Izzy versus Stephie. And I was like, okay, I'm going to deal with the haters. But it was so funny because after the show, she was like, I just left the show and I am now a fan of IzzyMania. And I was like, yes, I just gained another fan.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, I keep going back to when I was 13. When I was 13, I was wearing a lot of the Attitude Era t-shirts to school. Mm-hmm. That's the time that I was, going to school. And I was made fun of as a girl being a pro wrestling fan and being that open about it because I didn't care, because I loved it. I had found independent wrestling when I was like 11, 12 years old-ish too. So like I was deep into it. I loved it, everything about it. And like people made fun of me so much. And then like, so now I think you're 11 years old and you're going out there and saying wrestling is for everybody. I think that's why it kind of touched me too in like a different way because like I remember being that age and wishing somebody would have been like, yeah, girls, can get into pro wrestling or like it as a fan or want to develop as a wrestler. At that time, I didn't want to develop as a wrestler. I thought I was going to grow up and be a marine biologist. And then I moved to Canada, like, totally opposite of where I wanted to be. But then I became a pro wrestler in my 20s, and I loved it. And it was totally by accident, but still loved it. And I wouldn't change anything in the world. And like, it's great because I look back at some of those times where people bullied me, and now like I got to share locker rooms with some of these men and women that were wrestling back at that time. And I'm like, look at me here now after I was being bullied because I was wearing Stone Cold Steve Austin shirts, and now I'm in a locker room with Mick Foley or Mickey James or whoever. I'm going across a long timeline there saying both those names, but still, like, people didn't understand that when I was 13. And I'm sure maybe even if you were in school, maybe last year when you were in school, do people look at you differently because of that?
Yes, definitely. You know, it definitely sucks because you just want like one person that maybe just likes wrestling. So like it was like I said, it was hard. You know, there's one kid like I walked in with these WrestleMania pants by Wild Bangarang, and the kid was like, "Oh my god, look at her fake wrestling pants." And I feel like the only thing people just like look at is that pro wrestling is fake, or you know, the real term is choreographed. Um, but I was like, no, like you probably love movies. What if you love Marvel? All the superheroes are fake. All those villains are fake. It's not like Captain America is gonna come save you when they're like the school is on fire. Like, oh my god. So that's definitely kind of what I result to. And then like at the same time, what I do is I think to myself, I say, okay, does this person have so and so saying, hey kid, you're gonna do great one day? Probably not. Does this person get to travel around, you know, Florida or even, you know, the United States, getting to go to these amazing shows, meeting amazing people? No. Do they have 11.6K followers on Instagram? Probably not, and I don't think so. So like I kind of go like that route. But like, you know, it's all, like I said before, it's all about confidence, and you definitely need that in this type of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? In this type of business. That's it, business.
Definitely.
I don't know why I couldn't find why I couldn't find that word.
No worries. But yeah, confidence is a big thing. I mean, you say how nervous you were when you were a kid. I think for me at least, I wasn't as nervous as I got into the business. Like, I kind of calmed down a little bit, but you still have those butterflies every time you go out to wrestle. And I think when you don't have those butterflies, maybe it's not the right area for you to be in, because you're not getting excited for something. I mean, nervous is like, oh, I really want to kind of do this, or, you know, what if this, you know, thing doesn't come off the way I want it to? You know, you're excited about something. That's why you're nervous. And so, you know, when you don't have those nerves, that's what kind of worries me. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I feel like we all have that balance of like excited nervous and then like really bad nervous, and you know, definitely the bad nervous is the worst. It's terrible.
Now, one thing I also want to talk to you about that I saw on your Twitter, I do believe, is you put in an application to be a Stranger Things extra. How did you hear anything back from them yet?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I knew
man.
when I knew when I put in, I was like, I am not getting this role.
Well, you don't
And it's
know.
I but like I've seen, so I follow like a bunch of, well, I only follow one where it's like Stranger Things for filming.
Mhm.
So I always look, I'm like, okay, is there something like big happening? And they always post like, oh, here are a couple like extra stuff, and so I'm like, I don't want to apply for it again. Like that's just weird. But you know what? It's fine. But it's so funny. Today I was looking at some pictures, and they had like the Palace Arcade sign up. And I was like, oh my God, I was actually there because I went to Stranger Con or Stranger Things Con in Atlanta. And I met a bunch of the cast. I met my celebrity crush, Noah Jeanette. Oh my God. I have this video where he was doing the Q&A, and I filmed it, and I was like, I love you, Noah. And he was like, I love you too. And I was like, I just had my fangirl moment.
We all
I
have
needed
those.
that moment.
And that
Yeah,
doesn't go away, by the way. You'll still be, when you get
definitely
later in your lives and you see people that you admire or you find attractive, you're still gonna have like, oh
but I am trying to convince my parents to drive up to Atlanta. I'm sure that I'm gonna get there, but like I just want to go just to see all this stuff. Like I found this video of like Max and Dustin like running through the video store, and I'm like, oh my God, this is happening.
my God. Now, is that something that you want to go into? You want to go into acting too, or is it just because you're a big fan of the show?
just because I'm a big fan of the show, you know, I watched this video and the kid, he got to be an extra for the snowball scene in season 2. So I was like, oh my God, that sounds like so much fun. And so like I did a little bit of research, and like the first website I went on, it was like, oh, here's a couple of links to like do the whole casting thing. You know, like it was definitely a bit of a hassle because I had to like get a minor's department of like labor for Georgia or something, just because I'm 13, so like you can't put kids to work, so I need like some
Right.
sort of like permission, and like it was like a whole ordeal, and I feel like that's kind of a waste of time. But you know, it will be cool if the Duffer Brothers happen to call me and be like, "Hey, Izzy, we'd love to have you on the show."
You know
Probably
what?
it's not going to be them.
We can take this little snippet and we can tag them in it, and maybe that'll help it even further along. Be like, look at this girl,
Yes.
look at her Instagram following. You would be so intelligent to have her on your show. Even as an
That would
extra,
be
as
amazing.
somebody walking in the background, people are still gonna be like, that's IzzyMania right there.
Yeah, I can like wave like, oh, is this like the wrong scene to wave? I'm sorry. But like yeah, it's well, I'm gonna be honest, I've gotten a better call today. Let's just today. And so like I'd rather get the call I got today rather than the Duffer Brothers. And I'm not gonna announce what's happening because I'm sure it's already gonna happen once this podcast is out or this little video is out. So fingers crossed.
You know, you're the second person in a row that's had some kind of top secret thing going on. And I'm just like, ooh, I wish we could find out. But we
I
will
know, I'm
find out. And
sorry.
when we do, I'll make sure that I retweet it for you as well so that we can share
Thank
all
you.
of the wonderful news. Let's hope, knock on wood for you.
I know. I have wood floorings. I'm gonna knock. Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
I have a table here, so I knocked on my table for you. And I got my fingers crossed for you as well.
No, but I think this opportunity is actually gonna happen. I think it's gonna be like legit so cool. Like I cried when I was like, oh my God.
But it's so exciting. Like I said, because I mean, I don't know if it's because you're so young and you're still naive a little bit to the world and the way it works, although you've definitely had your fair experiences already because of wrestling. But like the energy that you give off and the exuberance that you have, just it's infectious. And I think that's
Thank you.
great, and that people can, relate to you in that way. Like, like I said, I relate to you because when I was 13, I was being made fun of and I never thought I'd have a chance in wrestling. And here you are, 13 years old, just living this amazing life, already friends with a lot of people at WWE and NXT. And now you're working with AEW, which is, you're doing like the hot tag, you're interviewing all these amazing people. I mean, it's amazing what your work ethic already at 13, plus you're going to
Thank you
school.
so much.
You're welcome. But let's talk about the hot tag, because like you said, it's 1 year old.
This is my favorite part. I love this.
Yeah, we want to promote what you're doing and what things are important to you. So let's talk about the hot tag. Like I said,
Yeah.
you just recently had the coach on, which is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. You've had the Dream Alexa on last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe now.
Yeah,
But
2 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay. So, but you're having, and she just made an AEW debut. So, I mean, you're having some rather big names. It's not like you're just getting, the guy that's wrestling on the corner from you, on your show. You're getting big names.
Yeah, definitely. It's so much fun. But like the hot tag, it's a big mixture of interviews and previews. So on Wednesday I do a little preview of NXT, and then for the first time last week or a couple weeks ago when this video will be out, I did AEW. That was awesome. And then I do on Fridays a little episode like talking about NXT and AEW, what I liked, and I asked my lovely fans what did they like. And then usually if I don't have an interview set, like or if I do like have an interview set, like I'll usually post the interview on Friday rather than like the AEW and NXT, like that whole little thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like the hot tag, it's so much fun. I love it. It's like so cool, and it's a great way to get my foot in the door.
It is. And diversity is good, because if you can, when you turn 18, we're talking hypothetically here, if you can wrestle and you can broadcast and you can act and you can do all these other things that you're probably going to do in the next 5 years before you turn 18, that resume right there, plus on top of that, your social media following that you already have currently, you're just going to be a shoo-in. I mean, obviously.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. It's like it's really cool that like I don't want to say this God-given gift because like I don't really like believe in that. Like oh, here we have a gift for you. You know, like I feel like just people like they're just I don't know, maybe they're naturally born from it, or like they just like have they build the confidence over time. You know, it's crazy. Like I'm just able to like speak really well, and like, but I really think that's just the practice. You know, like I said with like my first year, I wasn't like the best, but you know, now I feel like so professional, but I don't want to keep it really professional like you're watching a news show. I want to make it fun, and I really want my character to come out. You know, my dad always tells me like before we film, he was like, okay, pronunciate like really well on these words, and then show your character. You know, like that really helps. It's not like he's forcing me to do anything, because and also he's my cameraman, so like he tells me what I need to do and everything. But you know, that really helps me, because I'm like, okay, on these words I'm gonna be, you know, a little cutesy, and then like, you know, I start to do this thing where I'm like, so here we go, and like, you know, it's just those fun little things that people are like, oh, I love her, you know, I better tune in next week. So that's what I definitely want to try. And also I feel like skits, like funny skits, are a lot of fun. For NXT Takeover in Your House, I did this whole mom, dad, and like the daughter like skit thing. You know, I dressed up as like this typical dad. I was like the typical mom. You know, the mom was like, "Oh, I can't wait to have invite that Adam Cole boy. He is definitely a baby." You know, that was really fun. You know, like the dad was sitting on the couch. I had like this fake beard on. So like it's fun to do the skits. My other favorite one is I was like doing homework. Really, I was watching NXT. And so like I called my friend and was like, "Oh my god, I miss him so much." Blah blah blah. Or I miss them so much. And like my friend was like, "Wait, Billy from Sixth Period?" And like really, it's NXT that I miss. So you know, I love doing skits, and also the fun previews are a lot of fun. You know, couple weeks back when this video airs, you know, I did this video and it was like the whole DX thing. You know, I got yelled at for telling my viewers to tune into the hot tag at 8 or at 6 p.m. Eastern time. You know, my teacher, he yelled at me for talking during the test. Like, what the heck? So I had to tell him to suck it.
See, nowadays that might get away a little bit more, but when I was in school, I would have been suspended for years. Forget that, telling the teacher to suck it. Because that's when it was really popular, it was back when I was in school. And
I've heard of
I was
that.
like, no.
I've heard all the stories.
I can imagine the stories that you probably heard about wrestling back in the day. Were your parents always into wrestling, or did they just happen to get into it because you like it?
So they were the ones who introduced it to me. You know, my dad loves wrestling. Actually, right here we have some like old like wrestling figures that we got at this toy fair. And so like we have all this wrestling memorabilia. So definitely the love for wrestling is here in this household. And then my mom, she always says that she like watched with her brothers, you know, like it was just all like kind of combined together, you know. So like I remember when they introduced it to me, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I love this. My first question when I started to watch, I was like, why are the men wrestling in their underwear? So, you know, definitely, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how much I loved wrestling at such a young age, I don't know what will.
Definitely. That's amazing. Like your parents, obviously, like I said, I did a deep dive on all of your social media. I mean, you guys go to Disney, you guys go to Universal, you guys are at NXT tapings, you're starting to do some AEW stuff. I mean, quite possibly you have the coolest parents in the world. I don't know if you realize it.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, they suck. They
Good.
suck secretly. I'm joking.
I'm glad you don't take that for granted, because I definitely didn't think my parents were the coolest when I was a teenager.
Well, they secretly suck, like I said. I'm joking. My parents are awesome, everybody. I absolutely love them. They're my biggest supporters. You know, I really can't do like half of the stuff I do without them. You know, my dad, he's my cameraman, so I need somebody to film for me. But sometimes I can film by myself, but definitely a hassle. My mom, she's my stylist or my hairstylist, if you can say. So definitely the love is there, and so I just absolutely love my parents. So shout out to Mother Goose and Father Goose.
And I know they're on social media as well, right?
Yes, they are.
So why don't we go ahead, we'll do their social media, and then let's talk about your social media as well. That way
Yeah.
everybody who doesn't follow you can go and follow you.
Yes, so my dad's social media is, I believe it's Cody Starbuck. Yeah, Cody Starbuck. My mom's Twitter is Jenny Salaji. If you don't know how to spell that, you can just go to like who I'm following. I'm sure you can find it in there. And speaking of my social media, I have Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and I know this isn't a social media, but still very important. I have Pro Wrestling Tees on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. It's all the same. It's IzzyMania. Make sure you put in the "it's." Everybody forgets it, but no big deal. Pro Wrestling Tees, you can just look up IzzyMania, whatever you want. And there are some great tees right on there. And also, if you want to know like what's going on for NXT, tune into the Hot Tag, which is an exclusive social media show, all on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So definitely go check that stuff out.
You're so savvy. I love it. Like you have everything
Thank you.
ready to go. Like
I know there's a little bit of practice with these podcasts. You get like
definitely. I mean, you have like your social media is all the same. You can find everything just at this. It's perfect because like me, I didn't even think of that. So like my Facebook's one thing, my Instagram and Twitter luckily are the same thing. But then like other things, it gets all funky. And so I'm like,
yeah.
So it gets
You
hard.
definitely want. That's what I've learned through the years. You want to keep everything kind of simple and like the same.
Well, Izzy, I want to thank you so much for being with me today because you have been an absolute delight. So glad that I get to interview you. And
Yay!
I just look forward to your rising star.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. I can't wait for the little word game that we're going to play after. But yeah, I had a great time. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
All right, guys, this has been Talking Sass. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my episode here with Izzy, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah!
Thanks, Izzy, so much for being a part of my show today. She was such a wonderful guest. I really hope that you enjoyed it and you got to learn a lot about who she is and where she plans on going in the future. But now I have my second guest. As I told you earlier, Dan is going to come on and give us our monthly history lesson in pro wrestling. Take it away, Dan.
Hey, thanks again for having me. And I'm very happy to listen to Izzy. What a great appearance that was. It's very cool to be following her up. And today I thought we'd go back to 35 years ago this month. So November 1985. Stephie,
Ooh, I was just a baby then.
Oh, yeah, you're making me feel old now. So was I, just a baby.
There you go.
The gray in the beard is all an illusion.
You don't look a day over 34.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay. So let me set the tone here. November 1985. Earlier that year was the first WrestleMania. WrestleMania main event. It was Hulk Hogan and Mr. T against Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper, Madison Square Garden, the beginning of the WrestleMania era. But also on that card was Wendy Richter. Wendy Richter beating Leilani Kai for the WWF Women's title. Wendy Richter paired with Cyndi Lauper was such an incredibly popular competitor for WWE. Some say rivaled Hulk Hogan at the time. Wendy Richter was on MTV with Cyndi Lauper. She was becoming more and more popular and was really the linchpin of the rock and wrestling connection. So after WrestleMania happened, the payouts basically came through. Paul Orndorff, for being in the main event, got a reported $20,000. Mr. T got $100,000. Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan both got between $75,000 and $100,000 reportedly. Wendy Richter got about $5,000. And that was more than Leilani Kai, who got about $1,500, if Leilani Kai's number is accurate. So as the years going on, and Wendy Richter as the women's champion is really kind of becoming more and more popular, she's not getting the payouts that the men are, and she's getting frustrated. So she goes to Vince McMahon and demands a restructuring or renegotiation of her contract. It's put off until this day in November 1985. This is November 25th, 1985. And by this point, with Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling, the cartoon, Wendy Richter was a major character in that. You had the LJN action figures, and Wendy Richter was selling in those. She wanted to be compensated royalties for her likeness, and WWF was not doing it. So she was going to be defending her championship against the Spider Lady at Madison Square Garden. Spider Lady had been Penny Mitchell. Penny Mitchell was about 24, 25 years old, 5'9", about 140, 150 pounds, athletic, one of Moolah's girls, and it was just going to be a routine title defense. Wendy Richter gets to the building, and Penny's not there, but the fabulous Moolah is. She has to change in a different locker room. She knows something's amiss, And she's approached by one of the agents with a new version of the contract. And the agent, I believe it was Gorilla Monsoon, was trying to get her to sign it right then and there. Time to re-up with WWF. And Wendy said, well, I'd like to read it over. I have a match. I don't really have time now. I've got to go to my attorney and let him take a look at it. Well, she didn't sign, so they decided it was time for the screw job, the first WWF screw job. Wendy Richter ended up going out to the ring to face the Spider, which was Moolah wearing the Spider Lady costume. The two of them wrestled a pretty common match. They went about 6.5 minutes. In the beginning, Spider is bumping, they're cooperating. It's not really working well because it looks like they might both be calling spots and trying to really figure things out. But they're doing some comedy spots with Moolah hiding behind the referee, the Spider hiding behind the referee, going to the floor, and so on. But around the 6.5 minute mark, the Spider catches Wendy Richter in a inside cradle, small package. One, Wendy Richter kicks out. 2, 3. Referee continues the count, steals the title away from Wendy Richter. So now what basically happened is Wendy wouldn't re-sign. WWF screwed her out of the title. There was a schmoz at the end where Wendy was literally attacking the fabulous Moolah, pulled off the mask in front of Madison Square Garden. Fans were chanting, even before the mask came off, Moolah, 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 because they could tell it's not a 24-year-old woman under the mask. It's a 62-year-old fabulous Moolah who was wrestling in this match. But they put the belt back on Moolah. Wendy Richter ended up storming out of the arena, never talked to Vince McMahon for 25 years until she was eventually inducted into WWE Hall of Fame in 2010. But she left the arena in her wrestling gear, drove straight to the airport, booked a flight back to Dallas, and for 25 years had nothing to do with the WWF at all until eventually there was all kind of, they made peace. But that was the first screw job, and it was the first WWF major screw job kind of on television in MSG, and was kind of a really vital turning point in the history of the Women's Championship.
Oh, man, definitely. Like, obviously, I said I was just a kid then, but of course I knew that, Wendy had lost the title there, but I didn't know all that back history. That's amazing. Like, the first screw job, really nobody talks about. It's always the Montreal screw job that everyone talks about.
That's exactly it. And it wasn't until after Montreal that more and more people began to kind of look back at what happened with Wendy Richter and happened to in Fabulous Moolah. And watching that match, you can see little bits where they're not really cooperating. It's not a shoot, I wouldn't say, but there's a little bit of no selling. There's things that Wendy's going for where you can see Moolah resisting, and it's a really fascinating match to go back and watch on YouTube in light of what was going on backstage and what ended up happening that night. And it's really one of WWF's most intriguing matchups of all time.
Well, that's definitely my homework for the month. I'm going to go watch that match and definitely check that all out.
Read about it. And Sisterhood of the Squared Circle, The Complete History of Women's Pro Wrestling. There's a chapter all about it.
Fantastic. Dan, you are a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for our monthly history lesson, and I can't wait to see what you have for us next month.
See you then.
All right. Bye-bye.